This is episode 12 of the WION Sports Broadband edition with me, Digvijay Singh Deo. And I have a very special guest joining me on the show today. WV Raman, the head coach of the Indian women's cricket team, is linking up from Chennai. Raman, thank you so much for your time. Just about a month back, your team was in the final of the ICC Women's T20 World Cup. It seems like a lifetime ago, especially in reference to what's happening around the world with this coronavirus.
First of all, thanks a lot for having me. Yes, it does seem that it's two different worlds altogether, isn't it? A few weeks ago, the girls were performing well, and the entire focus was on them. There's a lot of appreciation with the way they played their cricket down under. But since then, life has taken a turn for the worse. We did have a little bit of indication of this coronavirus beginning to spread while we were in Australia, but since then, it's rapidly gained momentum. It's become a pandemic, and people across the world are really struggling. There's been a lot of lives, unfortunately. There's a lot of challenges, even in day-to-day life today now, for people across the world. And what would have been taken for granted a few months ago, we now tend to realize that life can really pose a lot of challenges. Life can really throw in a lot of surprises. But yet, that is what mankind is all about. We'll have to be resilient, we'll have to be patient, we'll have to take one day at a time, and then collectively, but yet staying in isolation, we'll have to fight this pandemic and prevail over it.
Yes, pretty well said. That's the message I'm getting from all the sports persons I've been reaching out to. This is the time for humanity to show resilience, as you rightly pointed out. But for you, Raman, as a coach, you're probably someone who needs to be in interaction with a lot of people at the same time. So how has the lockdown be for you? Is this a welcome break in a sense for you?
I'm no different from any other individual because everybody is going through a similar situation. Everybody is going through the same fears, the same anxieties, and they are using the same methods to combat this particular phase. They are all trying to be positive and saying yes, we can prevail over it. In that sense, I think I'm no different from anybody else. But otherwise, if life was normal, what would have happened is that we would have perhaps sneaked in a couple of camps, and the girls would have been working on their skills or on their fitness. But that's what life is all about. Now, the important thing is for all of us to come back to normal life, after which everything else should be thought of, because this is a time where we need to really sort of focus on keeping our spirits up. We need to hope and pray for the best, and hope that there'll be not too many tragic cases in the future, and hopefully things will come back to normal, and slowly we'll all start leading the lives that we are leading some time ago.
Yes, a seasoned professional like you, veteran like you, will probably know how to deal with this kind of situation. But when it comes to your team, it's a pretty young team. Have you been in touch with them, trying to figure out how they're trying to cope? Because a lot of young players in that team.
Yeah, I think it'll be a bit of a challenge for them, but at the same time, what it does is that now today everybody is communicating only through the social media or other forms or other platforms that the social media offers, and along those lines, they're all very savvy. I think they'll find ways and means to try and keep in touch, keep encouraging and revving the spirits of each other. And I'm sure that's what the girls are doing at the moment, keeping in touch through each other on the social media and ensuring that they're all having a good time, because this is a stage where people have to be creative as well, even to try and interact with people and keep it interesting, because it's 3 weeks since there's been a lockdown, which means that everybody's patience might be wearing thin. So it needs to be creative, it needs to be interactive, even the normal interactions. And the thing is that they need to ensure that they don't get on each other's nerves. And it's an interesting phase. And I'm sure there'll be a lot of lessons learned from this as well, because I remember when we used to play league cricket in the UK in the 80s, you would have a game once during the weekend, and through the week, you will have to find ways and means to ensure that you do something purposefully and yet at the same time, don't waste too much of time and sit idle. So that is what it is for the current day youngsters now. But the problem then was that we didn't have the social media or other options, to resort to find to do various interesting things. But along those lines, I think the current day youngsters have an advantage, because imagine life now in this current situation without any social media or internet.
Well, I'm not sure social media was something you were lucky to miss out on. At times, there are things back in the day. I remember a lot of people telling me because we used to read books and all that. But Smriti Mandhana, just I remember reading somewhere. Smriti Mandhana was saying that we all play online Ludo. How is that for team bonding, in your opinion?
Oh, good. I think, that will really sort of help them have a lot of fun, and it'll also teach them financial management, because that's basically, from what I hear, Ludo, Monopoly, all these games help you in the long run by way of learning a lot of lessons in terms of managing your finances.
Mm. Now, you spoke about resilience, you spoke about motivation, but there's a lot of uncertainty at the moment around the cricket calendar. And to be fair, it's not just cricket, it's not the global sporting calendar. Almost all sports till now, we are seeing till about June and July, we still don't know what's happening. Wimbledon's gone, the Olympics have gone, golf is starting perhaps post the end of July as well. There was this. Around the IPL, there was supposed to be a women's T20 bash kind of a thing happening there. That's sort of not going to be happening now at the moment. There's also the cricket tour, which you had to England, which is uncertain considering that England's, kind of completely grappling with this pandemic at the moment. Difficult for you to get the team and the players to stay motivated, and especially, the fitness to get them fit because they can't step out of their houses.
There are two ways to look at it. One way to look at it is that they have a lot of spare time now, which means that they can do various things, even though they are restricted in terms of, let's say, their equipment to train or having the company of their friends, so that they don't feel the strain and stress of a training session, which is very intense. But at the same time, they can look at various ways and means to do something to keep themselves in shape and also fit. What they would probably miss out is the technical side of it, but that we can't help, because the top priority now is for everybody to become healthier, safer, and get rid of this pandemic. Once that is done, let's not forget there's a lot of people who are also going through a great period of anxiety as to what the future holds for them
Mm.
in terms of their day-to-day lives. So sport, I think, is perhaps not something that we should be really focusing upon now, because the important thing is for all of us, for the entire humankind, to get safer and prevail over this pandemic and triumph over this pandemic, after which we can look at what do we do next.
Yes, it's important you say that because a lot of people have been telling me that sport isn't the priority at the moment. But let's talk about a bit of sport. Let's rewind back a month. Let's rewind back to happier times. Now, the final didn't go exactly the way you planned, but you must be extremely proud of India's campaign in that ICC Women's World T20 because let's face it, an average age of 20, just one bad match, really, really great performance from the team.
Yeah, it was, because as some of these girls have also said after their return from Australia, that they were far more sure of what they could do in the 50 overs format, but not the T20. But the way they played in the Triangular Series as well as the World Cup was something fantastic, because one was that it was something that they were not sure of as to how well they can do in the T20 format. Two was that, as you said, it is a young side, and three was that every game was a hard-fought one, because obviously that is what you'll expect in an international circuit. But still, they've had to fight each and every game. They had to stand up to a lot of challenges. And given whatever limitations that the side had, the girls really did well to sort of to stand up to challenges, prevail over the challenges. Yes, on the day it really mattered. Things didn't go our way, but this happens to the best of the teams, and it can happen to any team which has been, doing extraordinarily well over a period of time or during a tournament. But on the whole, I thought, that was a campaign to be proud of, and that was a campaign that would have given the fans a lot of hope about the fortunes of the women's team in the future. It would have given the fans a lot to look forward to. And most importantly, the entire cricketing fraternity would have realized that yes, now we also belong there. We can do well there. It's a case of just not repeating the mistakes far too often, and also developing a habit to be keen to learn.
Yes, you're right. I think that one word which sums this up is belief, not just for the players but also India as a country having a belief on the women's cricket team. I mean, let's go back 10 years. Yes, the women's team was there, but who gave it so much attention? Like we saw in the last couple of years, especially with the performances mounting. But I want to pick up on something else you said during just after the World Cup was that the semi-final getting washed out against England, that sort of, you said, that derailed the momentum of the team. So how was the mood in the dressing room like in the build up to that final?
Say, I don't want anybody to think it's an excuse, that I'm trying to latch on to. But the fact also remains that if you've not been playing for a period of a week leading up to a final, either by way of having a hard-fought game under your belt or having enough net sessions, is going to be challenging, especially for a side which is young and the average age is around 21, 22. The reason why I say this is because it's only with experience you know when to switch on and switch off mentally, which is the key to doing well in uh, a, a World Cup final or a semi-final. Of course, we couldn't play the semi-final. As there is one school of thought which says we were lucky to get to the final because of the rules. But be that as it may, what is important is that the ability of the players to switch on, switch off, like I said earlier, it gets better and better as they gain more experience. So we just probably had one session of nets leading up to the final. There's a lot of rains leading up to the final in Sydney.
Hmm.
When we got to Melbourne, it was just a case of one net session, and there you go. You need to suddenly, play in front of 80,000 people. That would have been exciting for the girls. But the point was that switching on immediately as they took the field was something that perhaps did not happen. You can't hold it against them. You can't blame them. That only comes with experience. Yes. And in a T20 game, if the first 30 odd minutes or 40 odd minutes don't go your way, it's very difficult to make a comeback, because even in a 50 overs, there's a possibility that you can slowly scratch your way back into the side, into the game rather. But in a T20 format, that's not going to be easy at all, especially if almost two-thirds of the innings don't go your way.
No, and it's if you just go back to what 15 years when I was just finishing college, I remember the 2003 Men's Cricket World Cup. Similar kind of a thing happened in the final, as you said. It's that first 15-20 minutes don't go your way. It gets difficult, and it's a matter of experience. And obviously the Indian team sort of, the men's team waited for the chance to come, and it came 8 years later. But one heartening thing, I'm not sure you would consider it heartening, but before we entered this World Cup, there was a lot of talk about Harmanpreet Kaur and Smriti Mandhana. But the Indian team reached the final without significant contributions from these two players. And that says a lot about everybody else chipping in. That it didn't matter that there was a plan A, and if the plan A didn't work, plan B worked so well for you also in the tournament.
Yeah, that was one sort of mental block that needed to go out of the system. That the team can only win if your star or most experienced performers come to the party. What this is proved to the girls is that each one of them must contribute for the team to do well, and if that happens, you are more likely to succeed 90% of the time. Yes, it's unfortunate that they didn't put up the numbers that was expected of them, but this happens in any tournament, because numerically, if you see, there will be a few who will have good numbers, there will be some who will not have the numbers, and obviously that's what makes cricket an interesting game. It's impossible for all of them to have the best of numbers all the time, and in each and every series and each and every tournament.
Yes, because this is sport, and As Pankaj Advani told me, what's the worst thing that can happen in sport? You don't do well. Next day you come back and it's a fresh card. But we had this new sensation emerge in this World Cup. Shafali Verma, all of 16, almost everyone across the world singing her praise. Just the sheer audacity of her going after the bowling reminded me of another 16-year-old many years ago. Somebody you would remember pretty well as well. But that's a lot of praise coming for someone so young, and I think that's one of the major responsibilities on you and your team now is to try and just temper it down a bit.
Yeah, she took the world by storm, didn't she? Because here was one 16-year-old kid. Everybody would have been wanting to see what is it this kid has got that she's in the team, and that too in a major competition like the World Cup. And the way she batted, the way she played fearlessly, she's won a lot of admirers, and now a lot of people are seeing great things for her in the future. But then again, there's a school of thought that's going around saying that she can't be doing the same thing and succeeding in the long run. But I think that is not the right way to look at it. She's 16. She knows, and she's intelligent. She knows that she needs to constantly keep working on her game, and you just let her be. She'll find her way as to what to do. A lot of things were said about Sehwag as well. They said, this
Yeah,
is not test match batting, but he's gone collared the attacks all across the world, and
David Warner.
he did it.
David Warner.
He did it in every part of the world, and that too in perhaps what was seen as the wrong format. He went and scored at an extraordinary strike rate in Test cricket. So, which means that even Shefali will find a way as to how to go bold, when to do, when to step on the pedal, when to try and play it out, and uh, the entire life is ahead of her. She'll learn. Just let her be. Don't try to curb anybody. As I told somebody, I said, nobody told the bumblebee it can't fly, because I've read somewhere that aerodynamically it's not supposed to fly, but it's flying because nobody told it that it can't fly. So similarly, don't tell her you can't do this in the long run, or this can't be done over a period of 10 years. Who knows? She might probably do it for 15 years and even better. Who knows? That is also another possibility.
Yes, what matters is what you tell her, not what everybody else tells her. You and your coaching team are going to look after this. But Harmanpreet Kaur said an important thing short few days back. She said that in terms of experience, the current Indian team is around 5 years behind England and Australia in terms of big game experience. But do you think that the fact that this is such a young team, that this is the team which is going to take India to the next level?
See, experience is an important thing. And the reason she might have said about the Australian side is that most of the players have played probably in about 2, 3 finals earlier, prior to this final. Okay, experience is an important component, but the point is, one way the girls will become experienced is playing together for a long time. Now, I see that happening with this current lot, because most of them are young. They've shown that they also have the temperament, and they also have in them to perform, when there is pressure, which means that the longer they play together as a unit, let's say if they play for another 2, 3 years without too many changes in the setup, I'm sure these girls will become as much as a force as the Australian team or any other team which is feared in international cricket now. So I see that the possibility of this team playing together for the next maybe 7 to 10 years being very high.
And when you're trying to build a team for the future and you're saying that this team can play together for those many years, you also need talent coming in as well. Are you working with the BCCI to expand the talent pool? Like you've got this raw talent like Shafali coming in. There are other people out there. Gradually what we've seen in Indian sport, and I'm not just saying cricket. You look at a sport like shooting. From nowhere, you have these 15, 16, 17-year-old kids coming in and clinching Olympic quota places like Saurabh Chaudhary or Manu Bhaker. So the talent is there. It's about getting them into that sort of ecosystem. Is that something you're working with the BCCI as well on this?
Yeah, obviously, everybody keeps their eyes open, to let the others know if there is some special talent coming through, because that is the beauty of India being such a big country. You always get to hear from different people that, watch out for this, watch out for that one, watch out for that player, watch out for that bowler. So which means that, you do get to hear, and there are also programs that are being worked out to ensure that more and more cricketers are sort of guided and encouraged, and the talent is nurtured. Yes, it has to be a long drawn and a consistent and a persistent process. But the good thing is that for these girls is that now with the under 19 World Cup likely to happen the coming year, and also with the emerging cricket championship within Asia starting last year, will give a lot of young girls the impetus to take up this game. Because earlier, what used to happen was that there used to be the under 19 domestic tournament, and then whoever did well, they would go on to be picked for the senior women's team. So what is that made is that you either suddenly you're playing amongst kids, suddenly you're catapulted into the most demanding level in the entire world. Now with the India A side also, beginning to embark on tours in we, the fallout of that will be that there will be a lot of girls who, by the time they get to the senior team, they will be a lot more experienced like the boys. For example, if a guy has to play for the India A side, he would have been playing about 6 to 7 years of competitive cricket starting from the under 16. So when that happens with the girls as well, I'm sure you will not see them really finding that much of a difference between um, the India A or the international level, because until now they had to really sort of overnight somehow find a recipe for success in international cricket, when they're catapulted from the under 19 level. And some of them have done it well, but it's not going to be happening all the time. So, which means that if they're to be gradually, exposed to various levels, make them play more matches, they'll become far more experienced, which means they would have gone through a lot of situations, they'll know what to do, they'll have the temperament, they'll not get overawed because they've gone through different situations in the earlier years so many times. So which makes them hardened, which makes them tougher. And I think that will really see a lot of people handling situations far better in the future.
Yes, and that's what they say about the current structure, especially in Indian cricket, especially domestic cricket for the men's. That by the time you reach a certain level, you've sort of taken the knocks and learned how to cope. During the World Cup, there was lots of talk about a women's IPL. Uh, do you think that it's not as far-fetched as it sounds? That there is enough talent now to actually put up not a more extensive IPL like we have with the men's game, but a much more shorter version. But there is talent around the world to make it pretty engaging.
See, I would rather, sort of have a different view on this. I made that very clear. This is something which we need to really sort of deliberate a lot and do it. First of all, I think we have to be clear as to what is the objective of having an IPL. That is number one. Two is that now, if you are going to really sort of kickstart it and have a lot of foreigners making up a team, then to reverse it later on is not going to be easy. So there are a lot of things, factors that go into this, and as a result, it has to be deliberated. And I'm sure that at the right time, the BCCI will decide as to okay, this is the time now to have a full-fledged IPL, and they'll do it. So until then, I think we need to try and take things as they come and wait it out.
Okay. Next, you have the Women's ODI World Cup. Perhaps helps that a lot of your core in this team is also going to play in that team, probably with a few seniors coming back in. Is that now the next step for you? That once this break is over, once this lockdown is over, start completely focusing on that.
Uh, the thing is that we have to see as to when things will get back to normal. We'll have to see how things pan out, and where India is placed in terms of the World Cup qualification, or if we have to play the qualifying matches as well. So there are a lot of things. So I don't think we should put the cart before the horse now at this point. So we'll have to wait it out. Let's allow things to unravel, unfold, and then see where and what is required, and then take a call then.
Okay. I think wait and watch, as you said, wait and watch is the way ahead at the current. But Mr. Raman, thank you so much for joining us. It's we've actually got this been show going for a while now, but really wanted to reach out to you and wanted to get your inputs as well, because maybe it was our fault we were not able to reach out to you just after your return from Australia, and as you know, things suddenly started into this spiral of this getting cancelled, that getting cancelled, us getting pushed back to work from home. So thank you so much for your inputs. Thank you so much for your perspective. And once again, on behalf of everyone here at WION and all our viewers and readers on our website, many congratulations to you on a fantastic team performance. And as you said, this is just the first step. This is a progression, and hopefully this team learns from its mistakes, and in the next World Cup, in the next T20 World Cup, we see them cross that final hurdle also.
Thanks a lot. Thanks for having me. You stay safe and stay well. And that's my message to all your viewers as well as your readers. Stay home, stay safe, and keep your wits about yourself one day at a time. We'll all fight it and prevail over this tough situation.